Just saying. The recording is in progress. Aloha. So my name is Kenley Ray. If you don't know me, I am a functional nutritional therapy practitioner, and my niche is in Ayurveda. I'm a licensed massage therapist. I am a song carrier, a medicine facilitator, and a medicine woman. So what this class about today is, what the heck is Ayurveda? I had a good friend of mine, friend of my mom's, asked me recently, she was like, what is that A word that you work with? Is it ayahuasca? Is it Ayurveda? I just kind of laughed. I was like, well, I work with both of those things. So which one would you like to learn about? She's like, oh, it's the one with food, I think. I think that's what it is. I was like, oh, it's Ayurveda. So this word can sometimes be misconstrued. It sometimes can be misunderstood. So this class is going to be all about what that word is, what Ayurveda even means. We're going to break down the Sanskrit understanding of it, talk about brief little history, and we're going to dive into some of the principles of Ayurveda. So Ayurveda is very different from Western medicine and allopathic medicine or modern medicine, in the sense that it looks at the entire body and not just your physical health. That's one aspect of Ayurveda. Another aspect of Ayurveda is the fact that we are looking at your emotional health. We're looking at your mental health. We are checking out your physical health, but there's also several other factors that come into play, such as, what are your life stressors? Do you move? Do you move regularly? What is your movement practice like? You know, Ayurveda takes all of these things into account, because your whole body, your whole system, including your spiritual self, is a part of you. And typically in Western or allopathic medicine, what's normally looked at mostly and mainly are different symptoms or sicknesses and diseases. And then we are focusing on just fixing those symptoms or diseases. And Ayurveda is the exact opposite of that. What's going on in Ayurveda is we view sickness or disease as something that is out of balance, that your homeostasis, your balance, there's something out of whack there. And so instead of just focusing on one symptom or one thing that is going on, what we're doing in Ayurveda is we're taking a whole look, taking a look at the big picture there, right? So one thing that I really would like to mention right now is the fact that Ayurveda doesn't necessarily focus on any one aspect. Ayurveda is the whole meal deal, right? We're not just focusing on your physical health. We're focusing on every aspect of your health, which is physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, right? Those are big concepts in Ayurveda, is to not just focus on symptoms or disease or imbalance, but to say, hey, that's going on, but what is the cause of that? What is the root of that? And to take a look at your environment, to take a look at lifestyle choices, and all these different factors that play into our health and wellness. So I'm just going to grab my notebook here. No shame in my game. I want to make sure that I stay on point in this Zoom, as it's very easy for me to start talking about many different things that have to deal with Ayurveda, because it is a huge system. In fact, Ayurveda is over 5,000 years old, and its roots actually gave way for traditional Chinese medicine, Greek and Islamic medicine, and even some of the stuff that they use in allopathic medicine or modern medicine stems from Ayurveda. So just to make sure I stay on point, I'm going to check out my notes and make sure we're all good. So when we're talking about Ayurveda, there is a huge focus that is on your personal constitution. One way that we could summarize Ayurveda very quickly is saying that Ayurveda is personalized medicine. You know, Ayurvedic practices are a way of personalizing what you need, because there's no one like you on planet Earth. We all have our own personal genetics, our environment, different stresses that we experience, different diet choices that we make. And I want to make clear in this Zoom that when I talk about dietary choices, I'm not necessarily speaking to paleo or the Mediterranean diet. I'm not speaking to, when I use the word diet, I'm actually speaking to your choices of consumption. So it's not necessarily, a specific type of consumption. It's just what you consume. So I just want to make clear about what that word means here in this Zoom. Diet is just what we're consuming, what we eat. It also can be looked at in what kind of substances are we taking in. That includes alcohol, supplements, herbs, that could also be alternative things such as marijuana. All of those factors are played into your diet because it's about what you consume. So history, right? Where does Ayurveda come from? What does the word mean? And just a little background on it. So Ayurveda itself is a Sanskrit word, and it's made up, if we translate it into English, it's two words, right? So Ayur meaning life and Veda meaning knowledge. So if we look at that in English, it quite literally means the knowledge of life. And that is the whole point of Ayurveda. So Ayurveda's roots came from the Upanishads, and it's a sacred scripture in Hinduism that was written by the rishis or sages. Now, there were 4 different parts to these scriptures, right? There was the Rig Veda, there was the Ayurveda, there's the Samaveda, and the Atharvaveda Veda. Lots of big Sanskrit words there, but we don't need to focus on all of those. What you just need to know is that Ayurvedic roots stem from the Rig Veda. That's where Ayurveda principles and methodology comes from. So Ayurveda focuses on keeping the mind, the body, and emotional health in balance, right? In harmony, pono. And there's many different principles that they use in order to be able to keep that, such as your movement, moving daily, whether that be through yoga or through walking or through different practices, such as weightlifting. There's many different things in order to include movement into your life. And Ayurveda encourages that. Yoga is a big part of Ayurveda. Yoga is like the sister to Ayurveda, right? Also, other principles that we look at in Ayurveda to keep you balanced is your diet, your consumption, what you're eating, what kind of herbs you're taking in, and different things that are going on with you. So that can be eating seasonally. That could be eating nutrient-dense food and all of those things. So Ayurveda takes a look at your personal constitution and tries to pick different foods to match what your needs are in order to keep your body in balance. Managing your stress. That's another big aspect of Ayurveda that sometimes can be overlooked. In fact, can be overlooked majorly, especially in Western medicine. And don't get me wrong, I just want to also say right now that I am not against Western medicine at all. If I break my arm, there's several concepts of Ayurveda that I'm going to use, but I'm also going to go to the doctor and I'm going to go get my arm checked. So when I talk about the differences between Ayurveda and Western medicine, it's not necessarily that I'm hating on Western medicine. It's just there are very different principles that are used in Ayurveda versus Western medicine. So Ayurveda, fun facts, was also the very first medical system in order to organize different things into 8 different categories, which were internal medicine, surgery, pediatrics, psychology, toxicology, fertility, gerontology, and ENT, which is ears, nose, and throat. So Ayurveda was the very first system to kind of break those down into categories. It doesn't mean that they are separate in Ayurveda. They all talk and work together, just like our bodies do in everyday life. So in Ayurveda, once again, the knowledge of life, a big key concept that we use in Ayurveda is prevention of unbalance, prevention of disease and sickness and unwellness. So in Ayurveda, what the whole point is to try to keep you in balance. And once you understand yourself, once you understand your personal constitution, it's much easier to know what brings you out of balance. It's easier to know how to prevent yourself from being out of balance. And it's a system that is technically preventative medicine. So if we were to break down what two main goals of Ayurveda are, the main goals are to preserve your health and wellness, to keep you in balance. And if you are experiencing unbalance, to eradicate unbalance and prevent it from happening in the future. Yeah. So in Ayurveda, instead of solely focusing on a person's said problem, sickness, or disease, like I mentioned earlier, what we're doing is we're taking a look at everything that's going on, right? This concept, I think, is extremely important because if I am per se stressed out, or I am someone who experiences a lot of stress, but I'm eating well, I'm working out, I'm doing the things, my mental and emotional health may not be so well, which actually can physiologically present itself in the body. You know, it can present itself in many different ways, such as rashes, or prone to injury, or bruising easily, you know, or, you know, your thyroid not functioning properly, or your adrenals shutting down. And if we're just focusing on fixing, like, for example, your adrenals shutting down, but we're not addressing the root of the problem, we're not going to get anywhere. Your adrenals will probably continually shut down and still be out of balance. All right. Once again, in Ayurveda, we're looking to balance. So because we have this holistic look at the body, when someone comes in and they're seeking Ayurvedic principles, methodology, or medicine, and they want to understand more about their life, an Ayurvedic practitioner or an Ayurvedic doctor will take a look at what is going on, and they'll ask you about your life and everything else to find the root of the problem. Because in Ayurvedic medicine, we're trying to treat the root of things that are going on, not necessarily symptoms that are presenting themselves. If we address the root of the problem, the symptoms will go away. And so once again, trying to bring ourselves back into balance. And so something that can be confusing about Ayurveda is that there are these concepts. If you are familiar at all with Plato's humors, Ayurveda used something that is very similar to that, but it's different. So in Ayurveda, once again, we're talking about your bio-individuality. We're talking about your unique constitution, because Ayurveda is personalized medicine. So in Ayurveda, they use ways to categorize people in order to kind of fit them into a category to understand things better. So right now, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so I can bring up a graphic about this. Okay, hopefully everybody can see the graphic. So I'm just going to scroll on down here. Here we go. So in Ayurveda, we have 3 different doshas, right? Remember how I mentioned Plato's humors earlier? So your dosha is a fundamental concept in Ayurveda. Everybody either is one primary dosha and has a secondary, or is just very strong in one dosha. It is rare to see all 3, but it has happened in my practice before. So I don't put anything out there. You know, it's totally possible for that to be a thing. So in Sanskrit, the word dosha means that which can be put out of balance. So inherently, Ayurveda's viewpoint on medicine and your life's journey is that it will have to be a continual practice in order to bring yourself back into balance, or to continue to keep your homeostasis, your balance, currently going on. Because dosha means that which can be thrown out of balance. And so since everyone on the planet is primarily 1 or 2 mostly, that means that you're going to be thrown out of whack at some point, or things are going to inherently try to throw you out of whack. So because Ayurveda, the knowledge of life, is a preventative medicine, what we're trying to do is prevent those imbalances from happening. So what we're looking at here on my screen is we're looking at the 3 doshas. We've got Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, right? Each one of those has its own energy, has its own season that is associated, And each one has its own imbalances and things that bring it back into balance, such as movement, dietary choices, herbal protocols, detox choices, cleansing protocols, different things that can bring you back into, once again, your homeostasis. For example, I'm primarily Vata, but I am also at times Pitta. So I have to kind of pay attention to different things, because as a Vata person, I do not like the cold at all. I get cold very easy. You know, I'm very tall. I'm about 6'1.5", almost 6'2". And I just have these very constitutional things that happen to me that I always have to try to keep in balance by eating warmer foods, not eating cold food, you know. And this is just for Vata. This is about me. I'm just doing a personal share. And each person has their own dosha, okay, or doshas. I'm a doshas person. I also am Pitta at times. And so I have to try to keep everything primarily in balance. So in this Zoom, we're not going to dive into your personal dosha. We're also not going to dive into necessarily what each one is or how it can be categorized, because that in itself is a major concept. What I wanted to do by sharing this graphic and just sharing this information with you is the fact that, yes, doshas, that which can be unbalanced, are a huge concept in Ayurveda. And in Ayurveda, when you go in to see a practitioner like myself, and you are trying to figure out how to balance yourself, usually your practitioner will lead you through a set of tests, give you a questionnaire. You will take that questionnaire, and that will actually help your practitioner learn, oh, this is this person's constitution. Then your practitioner will take a look at your unique genetic makeup. A practitioner will learn more about the environment that you live in. You know, sometime in the year, I live in Montana. Sometime of the year, I'm in Hawaii, right? And so that's a huge factor in that, because travel and stress and things like that, also another big factor. Something else that your practitioner will ask you about and look into in order to understand your unique makeup. Because once again, Ayurveda is a personalized medicine. I'm just going to scroll up here out of our dosha zone. Here we go. Cool. So as you can read on our screen here, Ayurveda is unlike medical sciences because it's not categorizing disease under one particular system. It's taking a look at everything. Prevention is key. Prevention is the biggest part of Ayurveda. We're trying to prevent ourselves from coming out of balance. And it's known by your bodily constitution and your bioindividuality. And everyone is unique. No two people are alike, and no two people can be described the same diet, cleansing program, or activity plan. Even if you and your best friend, you guys kind of live in the same area, and you guys both are experiencing, let's say both are having a rash, you both are actually going to receive completely different protocols in order to treat your rash, because both of you are completely different people. So I love Ayurveda the most because it's extremely personalized. This is something that I think everyone needs in their life. Everyone needs to be able to understand themselves very deeply, and to know what's going to whack them out of balance, and to be able to prevent that from happening right from the get-go. So I'm going to stop our screen share here. Let's see if we're back. Yes, we are. Awesome. So once again, in Ayurvedic methodology, the concepts of the 3 doshas are used to identify your personal constitution and the qualities of a personal imbalance that may occur, and try to use different herbal protocols, different breathing practices known as pranayama, use different movement practices, maybe yoga or exercise practices or stretching practices, and use different dietary protocols in order to address all of these personal factors just for you. So just to kind of wrap things all up, right? Ayurveda, the knowledge of life. It is a very personalized and unique medicine system that works with you, for you, based off of your bioindividualistic needs. No two programs will ever be alike. No two diets should ever be the same in Ayurveda because everyone is different. Everyone has their own genetic makeup, their own personal needs, and they all live in different places. Ayurveda is also over 5,000 years old, and it gave root to many of our current medical systems that exist, like allopathic medicine, traditional Chinese medicine, Islamic and Greek medicine. And for me, as an Ayurvedic practitioner, how do I say this? I am so passionate about Ayurveda. I am so passionate about what it did for me personally, because on a personal share, when I was younger, I was always told by all of my family that there is a huge thyroid condition that is in our family. And for many, many years, my weight and inflammation in my body would rocket up and down. And this is before I even had my menstrual cycle. And I always just kind of blamed it on my thyroid. I was like, oh, my thyroid's terrible. It's terrible in all of my family. But in reality, what I didn't understand was I was actually not moving correctly for my body. I was not eating correctly for my body. And I was not managing stress well. And all of this kind of compounded over the years. I got my menstrual cycle started. Things were just going on. My weight was still rocking back and forth. My mental health was just not doing so well. And Ayurveda really dived deep into those concepts for me. And it really taught me actually how to take care of myself, how to regulate my nervous system, how to breathe, pranayama, breathing techniques, how to take a nice big deep breath in, different breathing practices in order to fill my body with the oxygen that it needs to function. I learned about different herbal protocols, different teas that I could drink, how to eat seasonally. And it changed my life so vastly and so greatly. There was a fire inside of me. I just was lit up. I became so passionate about Ayurveda and sharing it with the world because what I witnessed in allopathic Western medicine was the fact that disease pops up and we're treating the symptom and we're not necessarily treating the root of the problem. And the root of the problem can be even outside of ourselves, such as stress or our environmental factors, like what we do for work, how we handle things in our lives. And Ayurveda really taught me to treat myself in a very holistic way, to take a look at all of the things in my life and actually address them from not only a physiological standpoint, but a mental, emotional, and spiritual standpoint. So I was able to look around my life when I started to feel out of whack, be like, oh, that's what's going on. And then once I started to understand myself and understand how to bring myself back into balance, if things started to get kind of wonky and get out of whack, I would immediately know what protocol to use and how to bring myself back into balance. So that is, in short, in a very short nutshell, which is hard to do with Ayurveda because there's many concepts in it. You know, I could go off all day and not only just talk about the doshas, but I could talk about the 5 elements and how they play into this and how they're a very important part of Ayurveda. I could also talk about different systems and protocols such as pranayama or panchakarma, different ways in order to heal oneself. But today, this was just a very short Zoom class in order to address what is Ayurveda. And Ayurveda is the knowledge of life. It is personalized medicine made specifically for you because there's no one else on the planet that is like you. So if you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat. I don't see, I do not see any questions happening in our chat. See if I can pop that up. Yeah. There we go. Awesome. All right, so like I said, if you have any questions, you can feel free to write them down in the chat. While that's going on, I'm just going to go ahead and start up some singing bowls just to kind of start closing the circle. Before I do that, though, I actually just want to say thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your energy. Your energy and your time to me is very sacred. It's not something that I take for granted at all. When we give our time and our energy to places or to things, it's actually, it's so sacred to me. It's life-giving. And so I just want to take a second and just honor you for coming today, for showing up, for being a part of this moment, and for taking some time to learn a little bit. I hope this class was short, was sweet, and was helpful in learning what you needed to know about the science of life. All right, beautiful people. With no questions in the chat, what I'm going to do is going to end this recording. I want to thank you again for coming today, for showing up for yourself, for learning, for being open to understanding more. And I hope to see you again soon. I will be doing a class on doshas, on the 5 elements, on different things like that. That will be coming up very soon. And I am also doing a Panchakarma cleanse that will be happening here at the beginning of September. So if you'd like more information on that, go ahead and feel free to message me. And I hope in the meantime, you have a blessed up, beautiful, amazing day. Aloha.